Well, mainstreaming is about making sure that we take account of climate in everything we do. And what's so encouraging about today's commitment is that it applies right across public and indeed commercial banks. That way we can be really sure that we're going to be making a big impact.
So, without further ado, I will now start with a discussion.
That journey from climate being something that perhaps you think about adjunct to your business, to understanding that it's core to your business, both in terms of risk and opportunity, is what we're calling mainstreaming. And it's been a long road for many of the institutions here, and it's now becoming a quickening pace with which we're moving down that road.
You know, both groups have worked very hard last year to reach common definitions, for example, of what can be regarded and counted and measured as climate finance. This may seem a little technical, but in fact it's far from technical. It's the basis of any political and strategic discussion, is to have a common language about what we are talking about.
It sounds like we're looking at a serious culture change. How do you bring that about in organizations such as the multilaterals?
Well, I think that for all of the MDBs, the regional development banks and the World Bank Group, I think it's probably fair to say that you look both at the risk and the opportunity. For example, in the World Bank Group, one of the aha moments for us was when our clients sort of said, well, okay, we understand, these are our sovereign clients, we understand that we need to adapt, but we're not quite sure exactly what we need to adapt to. And that led to some really important analytical work together with the scientific community to understand the economic impacts of what the science was saying, and, you know, the very different development pathways that countries would follow depending on whether it was a 4 degrees, 3 degrees or 2 degrees world that we were headed for. That changes the way you think about your agricultural portfolio. That changes the way you think about the transport portfolio.
Well, so I should say that the principles derive from real experience of all our financial institutions. It's not a top-down thing, it's really a bottom-up. We have generalized from real experience in our financial institutions. I would add, Mr. Moderator, a personal sixth principle, which is to practice what we're preaching. And we have to have in our own institutions policies and activities aimed at reducing our carbon footprints, and we're also doing this sort of thing.
So we must ensure we all focus not just on climate action, but on making sure that we aren't undermining those positive impacts by inadequate climate considerations in the remainder of our activities. That's the way ahead, as I think we are all seeing it amongst ourselves. One important aspect, of course, is that we will always be looking at these things, and always do look at these things going forward in terms of new projects, but we mustn't overlook the fact that we already, all of us, have a big stock of existing projects, and we shall need to examine those to make sure that we are not inadvertently producing risk from climate change in relation to those. So I think there's quite a lot of work that needs to be done to take all this forward. Yeah.
And I will highlight the sixth principle that you mentioned before about preaching the preach and really walking the talk. And we think that it's key to include stakeholders outside also from the financial sector, because climate change is a worldwide threat. It's the worst, it's the most important threat that humanity is facing. So it's not only about the financial sector, it's about other stakeholders that, as you mentioned, can have key lessons learned that can contribute and actually help the financial sector to be more effective with these elements.
As a commercial bank, the 5 voluntary principles go well beyond showing growing awareness that climate change must be addressed. They lead to a shift of conduct, to a different way to look at how we manage our business, and they lead to very concrete actions.
What about the commercial incentive? Are you optimistic about finding the sweet spot between pursuing these policy objectives and making the balance sheet work for you?
Yes. it's clear from what I've just stated that we will invest less, clearly, in fossil fuels, for instance. But we will be investing more in other forms of electricity production, which are relevant to fight against climate changes. And our clients as well move in this direction.
For 3 years, we have almost had no rain in the country. And apart from that, it sometimes rotates, sometimes it's flood. 4 years ago, we had a very severe flood. But we say flood is better probably than drought. But all these are effect of climate change. We feel the pinch.
So what we really want to do, I think, is to welcome first the 26 financial institutions that have become supporters of these principles so far. 26 financial institutions with a total balance sheet value of above 11 trillion US dollars. So this is, I think, a good image of what leveraging can mean. But obviously, it's not enough. We need to go further. And the support of these first 26 financial institutions, I should say, is in and of itself a leadership statement. And we are looking forward to having more institutions joining us and to individually and collectively mainstream all these efforts.